Welcome back to International Relations 101. I'm William Spaniel. Today we're beginning a series of lectures on the strategies that terrorist organizations use, starting with provocation. Let's get to it. Terrorist organizations sometimes commit attacks hoping to provoke large-scale, counterproductive responses. The terrorist organization commits an attack designed to greatly upset that target government, and the government responds with countermeasures designed to kill and destroy that terrorist organization. If not implemented intelligently, those sorts of counter-terrorist strategies can backfire. They're going to be economically and militarily very costly. So not only does the target government suffer the cost of the initial attack, but it also drains its own economic resources, which may be a goal of the terrorist organization. Furthermore, this puts military assets in the way. So a terrorist organization might have additional targets that it was unable to hit before. Good news here for the target government is that they're military assets, not civilian assets. But there's still a trade-off there. Another problem that a government may face is recruitment issues. With any terrorist organization, there are a pool of individuals that have some sort of sympathy for that terrorist organization. If a government uses a large-scale counter-terrorist response, this can result in recruitment to that organization, a radicalization of the individuals that are somewhat sympathetic to the terrorist group. This can occur because the government is showing its true colors, allegedly, by having a large-scale counter-terrorist assault, which is affecting civilian populations as well as the terrorist organization. Or it may result in the death of a loved one or a family member, which radicalizes that individual and incentivizes him or her to join the terrorist organization. This creates a puzzle. Why would governments choose counterterrorism policies that backfire? Why not just choose a smaller scale response? Well, I'm going to give you two different sets of explanations for this. First is a domestic set. One option is that policymakers do stupid things, and so they don't intend to commit terrorist or counter-terrorist attacks that are going to backfire, and yet they end up doing that anyway. I don't find that one particularly fulfilling. Policymakers are aware of this trade-off. They know that large-scale counter-terrorist assaults can result in recruitment and result in more costs than the initial attack, and so they're aware at least of this trade-off. And furthermore, if you look at some manifestos of terrorist organizations that are freely available on the internet, you can see that these organizations put in black and white that this is something that they're trying to accomplish. So it'd be odd if policymakers continuously do these sorts of things that result in these mistakes. There are some other domestic explanations, though. One is that a government may be intending to get a rally around the flag effect with the large-scale counterterrorism assault. And maybe it's going to be a long-term net negative, but in the short term, it might be a net positive. And we've seen before with principal agent problems, maybe you just need that short-term net positive, otherwise you're going to be in deep trouble now, and you're willing to suffer the consequences later. Of course, there are also diversionary incentives here. If you have a government that is trying to sell itself to its population as being strong and militarily capable, it might want to engage in large-scale countermeasures to demonstrate that capability and divert attention from some weaker performance area, maybe economics. Another benefit to this is that you can use these sorts of distractions to commit purges in governments that are not as democratic. The second set of explanations is informational and not relying on domestic explanations. Targeted governments know less about how sympathetic audiences will respond than the terrorist organizations that are committing those attacks. Terrorist organizations that are committing those attacks are living within their affected populations, whereas the target government, in a civil context, may be in a very far away capital, or in a transnational terrorism situation, maybe across an entire ocean. So the terrorist organizations on the ground have a better idea about how individuals are going to respond to large-scale counterterrorism measures. Think about this question in that light. Who is less likely to attack? A group that is robust to counter-terrorist assaults, or a weak group? Well, conceivably, these weak groups should be filtering themselves out, knowing that if they were to engage in terrorism, they would have a large-scale counter-terrorist response that would then destroy them. So as a consequence, the types of groups that are more likely to attack are the types of groups that are more likely to be robust, which then traps the government into making these mistakes as a consequence of the strategic selection of terrorist groups in the initial attack decision. That wraps up this lecture on one strategy of terrorists, provocation. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to see you next time. Take care.